there, this time I'm working on my blueberries, blending on sanded paper using odorless mineral spirits, powder blender, and texture fixative from brushandpencil.com. I took a reference photo from a blueberry farm not too far from my house. April is you pick season, so I was super excited to go and get me some fresh blueberries and take this cool picture. I started out on sanded paper, it's UArt 600 grade, and I took the color pencil titanium white and color pencil powder blender to create a mixture. What I wanted to do was create a botanical art, and I don't like the color of the background. I noticed in a lot of botanical art, it's very simple images of a plant on a white piece of paper, so it stands out very simply, and it's just beautiful. And I needed a break from everything that I've been doing lately. It's been very busy, a lot of work, and I found that this has been a great piece to rest my brain a little bit and give my brain a break from the bigger pieces that I've been working on. So I take a dry brush with the dry blend of those two, and I just brush it on using circular motions. And the powder blender with the titanium white allows the titanium white to flow smoothly onto the sanded paper without there being any kind of white clumps or anything like that. I want it to be a soft background, and I do want some of the paper to show through a little bit. So this is working out very well. I like having the white background because it allows the item of the stem of blueberries to stand out, and you can just focus on one little thing, and that was kind of nice. So you can see I just fill in the background using the same technique, and then I start to fill in the stems and the leaves and the blueberries, and I'm working from dark to light. And that's the great thing with the brush and pencil products, is you can work from dark to light, light to dark, however you want, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And I'm just kind of creating a little underpainting, just like you would when using oil paints. You can create like a little base layer and build on top of that. So that's what I'm doing here. And I take a little bit of that powder blender by itself with an applicator, and what I'm doing is just blending the pigments together. I have other videos that explain a little bit more as to how this works, why it works well on sanded paper and things like that. But I'm just blending it now to eliminate the graininess, almost like a Crayola look that colored pencils give, and making those colors flow seamlessly together. Sometimes I'll use the applicator, and sometimes I'll use a dry brush with a patting motion. You'll notice if you ever give this a try that if you use a dry brush with a sweeping motion, you can actually erase some of those particles off the paper. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not so good. Here I found it to be quite a good thing because a lot of times the particles would get onto the white of the paper, and I really want that to be separate. So I would just use a sweeping motion around the edge of the blueberries and the leaves to erase the greens and blues that, seeped their way onto the white of the picture. You can see me doing that right there. And then I'll actually use a patting motion to blend sometimes, to get those colors to blend with a dry brush. Right there, I just sprayed with my Texture Fixative, and I give it about 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes I'll just leave it overnight because I'm done for the night. And then I come back to it once it's completely dry, and I work on the second layer. I do the same thing with the background. And this time, as I start to build color, I really want to focus in on making sure I get accurate blending in such tight-knit little areas. So I decided to go towards my odorless mineral spirits for these nooks and crannies. And it works very well. I have to applaud Aliona and the brushandpencil.com products, because what you find is you can seal in a layer with a texture fixative, and you can color over that layer, and the odorless mineral spirits do not seep through and blend the previous layer that was sealed with that texture fixative. The odorless mineral spirits blend only that layer that you are working on currently, and it doesn't adulterate anything that you did prior to that. So it's just fantastic with being able to build up depth and realistic features, and I feel like I've only just begun to play with with these products and mixing the old style with the new style, if you will. You can take teeny tiny little brushes like I'm doing here to get in those little fine areas and blend those colors out to get that realistic appearance. And what I find also is sometimes it works a little bit like watercolors. So I build up those layers, and once I get that second layer done, I start to work on the leaves. And you can even see here better where it has that watercolor effect as you're blending, and you're able to manipulate those color particles around similar to what you would with watercolors. And then I finished that base layer. I sprayed it with Texture Fixative, and look how easy I go over the dark green with this lime green color. I don't know the technical term for that color right offhand, but I'm gonna call it lime green. And I'm barely touching the paper. In the past, in order to get such a light color over a dark color, you would have to burnish and push hard, and I have my pencil at a fine tip. I'm barely touching the paper, and I'm getting that contrast. It's just wonderful. And that's thanks to that Texture Fixative. It's wonderful. Here, I'm actually taking a little bit of the powder blender and taking a teeny tiny brush, and I'm patting it to soften up some of that detail that I just did. And I just continue to work on the leaves, building up textures and details, and focusing on the lights and the darks and where my colors are in my reference photo. And once I get that layer down, I use the odorless mineral spirits a little bit more to blend, and once I feel comfortable with where that is sitting, then I go ahead and I spray it again with the Texture Fixative. And I guess a little bit of time has passed and that I didn't record, but I ended up working on a whole nother layer, and now I'm blending again with that odorless mineral spirits. I have to apologize because towards the end I had to switch cameras, and the lighting is not as good due to the camera. I went from my personal camera to a GoPro, and the GoPro's a little old and it doesn't pick up the light that well. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking that titanium white and powder blender mixture once again to go over the edges where the powder, the particles of the color like to fall off and get onto the white edges. So I'm just cleaning it up a bit to make sure I have the perfect contrast between the blueberry stem and the background. Having that white background allows those colors to truly pop too. It's amazing how your eyes can see colors differently based on the background. Now I'm working on the finishing touches, where I take that touch-up texture and the titanium white, and I create that paint-like mixture. And I really want it to be very opaque, so I use very little touch-up texture in the amount of colored pencil. I'm sorry, the powdered titanium white colored pencil. There we go. And I use a thicker brush to mix it very well until the powder dissolves into that and creates a nice paint-like mixture. And I just take a really thin liner brush and I brush over the areas that I really want to highlight. Some of those areas I will leave white, and some of those areas I go over again with colored pencil so that they're not stark white, and it just allows the colors to truly pop with the veins, the leaves, and things like that. So I remove my tape, and there's the finished product. There's my blueberries. I'm very happy with the way that this came out, and thanks to brushandpencil.com for their products, because I am so happy that I get to create such great art using such great materials. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.